Hello everyone, my name is Steve, and I just thought I would make a different video this time to kind of teach people some of the lessons and stuff I've learned and to kind of prevent some of the mistakes I've made. This video is actually going to be basically for people who are in college or people who are interested in some kind of a career move, particularly in the software industry. So I wrote down a list of things I wanted to kind of share with people and some of the stuff I've kind of compiled and seen online, and kind of, based this on my own experiences, kind of the things you might encounter when you're actually first getting out and, stepping out into the real world and trying to get your first job. And to give you an example, I graduated from DeVry University last year with a Bachelor of Computer Science, and I maintained a pretty good GPA. I was hit the dean's list a couple times during that time, and I had a job at the time where I was working for a bank, and I was working there for about almost 8 years, and actually I had security and everything I could have probably wanted without even having a college degree. But I wanted more. I wanted to really find out, who I really am and the passion I am, and which I definitely know is programming, because as you've probably seen on my channel, from Atari to C++ to ASP.NET, anything there kind of confirms that's what I want to do. And hopefully you'll have the same thing too, where you kind of find what you want to do and who you want to be. So like I said, I base these on my experiences, and I'm sharing some of the kind of the paths I've been down, the roads and things I've traveled. So the first list here I put above all, which I did kind of already touch on here, is find a good college to attend, whether it's a university or a technical college, which is preferable if you want to be a software developer or a programmer, if you will, .NET developer, whichever your selected field is. And make sure you stay in school and complete all your courses, do the best you can, and eventually get your bachelor's degree. That's definitely recommended. To be a software developer, though, you don't have to have a college degree, but I can tell you what, in this kind of economy, depending on where you're at, I'm in Arizona, it really helps. So number 2 would be to build a resume that highlights your skills learned at school and any projects you've worked on. So you want to find a resume that's really going to capture what you've done at school, like projects you've worked on and maybe some of the courses you've taken that's kind of related to the field you're trying to get into. In my example, I attended DeVry University, so we got to work on a senior project in the final year, which mine was done online with some friends. And I was able to put that into my resume and kind of add it into the, kind of add a space there called projects, where I could just detail some of the stuff I've done and stuff I learned about database and .NET development, programming, information technology, or whatever. That will really help you, at least help recruiters take notice of you. And I'll get to that one very shortly too. So make sure you have a list of projects. One of the other projects I did was when I worked at the bank, I developed an application that people could actually use on the floor, where it would enhance their performance, their quality, and it also help me do my job better and help me what it is, it's a commenting system. It just made things easier for people to type in stuff into the computer instead of repetitively going in and just trying to put it in all the time. So like I said, projects, a good resume. Keep learning about programming, whether it's .NET, C# or SQL. I put definitely a highlight here on SQL, because SQL is very it's very in demand out there. I mean, really make sure you know your skills in .NET, because you'll be tasked and you'll be tested on these in so many different ways, which I'll get to that a little bit later here. But make sure you have your skill set in demand, and make sure your skills are sharp in this. At least make sure you understand the knowledge and the technology that you're trying to pursue. And know your weak points too, because this is probably another place I need to add on here, because one of my weak points when I found out before I got into information technology was in database. And I knew that as a university student. I realized there were some courses I was taking in advanced database where it wasn't going very well, and it wasn't going in my favor. And I had a great friend from Texas. I worked online with him, and he really helped me learn some of the other stuff I needed to know about SQL, or SQL if you will. But I realized by the time I got into the industry and got my first job at the state that I really didn't know much. I made some mistakes, and I'll go over that later, but make sure you know your skills. Fourth I put here is develop a passion for learning new things about software applications or web design. So if you want to be a software programmer, you should really have a passion for it. It should be something that you just want to do intuitively, that nobody even has to tell you to do it. You don't even have to sit there and force yourself to do it. It's just something, it's in you all the way. It's just something that nobody can ever put in you, or nobody can ever take it from you. It's just already what you want to be. And I knew years ago when I first worked on an Atari computer back in the 1980s, that's the only thing I ever wanted to do my whole life. Of course, then I didn't realize that going to college in those days would have been more beneficial as of now, where, you know, software is more in demand if you have the technical skill set. So make sure you have that passion for learning new things, even if it's web design or whatever, your mobile design, you know, cloud technology, whatever your passion is, just pursue that and stay with it. Okay, number 5 I put is post your resume once you get a good resume. Post your resume online everywhere. I go from Monster.com to Career Builder to Indeed.com to Dice.com. There's just so many websites out there where you can put your resume and it'll get a lot of exploitation where people can really see it. And once you start doing this, you'll have a lot of, which will be going to the next step here, you'll have a lot of recruiters and staffing agencies start calling you if they see something that has caught their eye, especially if they see your skill sets. If you don't list your skill sets on your resume, though, you're not going to get very far. And that's why I said you want to make sure this is all showing up in your resume, that your resume is all over the internet. So the next thing, which I kind of just touched on here a little bit, is build a relationship with your recruiters and staffing agency. So once you get your resume out there on the internet, you're going to have recruiters call on you, and basically a lot of times they want you to come visit them in person to kind of get a feel for you and kind of see what you're like, and kind of, because basically they're going to have to market you. They're going to get you out there in front of the employer and try to make you look really good so that you can get that job and hopefully make them look good, because they get paid by these employers to basically to put you out there and to recognize you, you know, to make it known that you're a good candidate for this position or whatever. So they get out there and recruiters. So have your good relationship with them. You'll start getting calls from them. Keep track of them. That's the number 7. To skip ahead here, is keep a list of the recruiters that have contributed to getting you good job contacts. Now you're going to meet and probably talk with a lot of different recruiters and staffing agencies, but some of them, it may not go very far. I've talked to a few of them. They got really excited and they kind of got me in the mood too, where it was like, okay, we're going to go ahead and send your resume out, and then never hear anything back from them. You know, it's the end of it. You try to call them, you get voicemail, nothing. So if you're not having recruiters that's actually benefiting you, I kind of write them off the list or kind of put them on the back burner until, you know, they start calling me again and try to put my name out there again. So like I said, having good contact with the right recruiters is very important. And some of the real good ones are, may get some argument on this, is like Robert Half, they're one of the larger ones, and you'll find some of these smaller ones, Aerotech or whatever. I had one call me earlier. That'll really start getting your name out there more, and you'll really start establishing a good rapport with these people. So the next thing on the list here is realize you are starting a new career and you will be essentially starting over. Now I can really relate to this because I worked for the bank for 8 years, and while I wasn't making the most incredible salary in the world, I was making a very decent living. I mean, I just had money in the bank. I didn't have to worry about a lot of things, but once that all ends, a new career begins, you're basically back at the bottom of the totem pole. So I was finding myself all the way down at the very end, and what I mean by this is I don't mean you're down at the bottom of the totem pole as a professional, like if you have already done something professionally. I mean you're back on the bottom of the totem pole as a worker, because basically you're starting a new career and you're developing a new path. So you're trying to rebuild your resume, you're trying to rebuild your credibility to people and try to show them. So just know that you're going to be starting all over. It's a risk. I mean, life is a risk. I had to take it, and I left a career where I had a career of 14 years in customer service. So I mean, a very long time. I could pretty much walk in any customer service job and just grab it because of my skill set. But information technology, I've only got a few months under my belt right now, but it's starting to go up the ladder a little bit. I do have another contracting position that I'm going to be going to here in a couple weeks, starting with another company. And I have another one that's kind of interviewing me right now, but I'm more deciding on the contract position because I found out if you ever get an opportunity where a recruiter will let you come in and actually sit in the environment of the job or whatever before you're even there is a really good thing, because I had this company, no names mentioned here, they let me go in and basically write a program. They had me writing an assessment or whatever, and I could see what the people are like there, and I discovered that some of the things I don't like about the place, and maybe some of the I don't know, just some of the way people have acted and just the way they treat you, just by not even knowing you. It's just things like that will really tell you whether you want to work there. So the next thing on the list I put here is be open to contracts or direct hires. So like I mentioned, I have a contracting opportunity come up, so I'm open to that. I have worked at another contracting position, and I have worked as a direct hire when I worked for a state school system before. So make sure you're open to that kind of stuff, and anything goes. So if you're not open to contracts, you're kind of limiting, shortchanging yourself of what you can really do, especially if you're in a tight economy and you don't really have many options. You're going to discover that if you do that, you're going to be competing with some very technical people. There's senior developers out there with 8 to 10 years experience, and you'll see the minimum requirement for a lot of them are that. So what's again really important is if you're open to contracts, sometimes they will give people what's known as a junior developer a chance to basically show what they can do and to really start building your rapport with them. So number 10 I put is enhance your technical knowledge. Now this is really important too, even before you even have a job, and already after you have the job, of course, because as you're talking with recruiters, staffing agencies, you're going to be tasked with some serious technical, deep, intuitive questions, I like to call them, because I've been asked some things and terminology and stuff I didn't even know what the questions meant. And if you don't know something, it's okay to say I don't know, instead of just trying to guess at it, which is probably another thing I like to put on here is don't shortchange yourself and make yourself sound like you know an answer and try to babble it out when you really don't know. Just say you don't know. So enhance your technical knowledge, and you won't run down that path, but you will be tested and you will be tried with a lot of technical employers. They'll get somebody called a technical recruiter that will enhance your skills. Sometimes what's really good also, to get some good points here, is you'll be meeting with recruiters that can even prepare you beforehand for technical questions. I had one recruiter one time that sent me a list of questions that were very close match to what this employer asked me, so I was able to actually Google the information and look up a lot of stuff. But you'll kind of learn as you go along. And then I put down in the last part here, when you finally land that job, and I put down some bullet points here, learn everything you can on the job. Of course, like any job, when you get in, you want to make sure you're absorbing information and just learning as much as you can about your tasks, your responsibilities. Learn who the people are, your contacts. Learn where you need to go when you have questions. Learn everything you can about the business. I mean, really knowing the business is essential to surviving and to flourishing. And I have to relate that too, because I've made some mistakes, and I'll get down to that a little bit later. But make sure that you are staying in contact and putting your contribution out there of what you're trying to build. You're basically trying to build your own credibility within that company. So the next thing, which is kind of what I went into here, is build a good relationship with your coworkers and your boss. So as you're getting to know people and you're getting to know your boss more, they're feeling more comfortable with you, and they're starting to trust you more, especially when your skills start showing through and you're proving that you can do the projects and stuff like that. And it's really good, because if you're not showing up for work, if you're well, fortunately, if you don't show up for work, you probably won't have a job. But if you're late for work and stuff like that, that's not always good. Depending on where you worked, I worked for the school system, so they weren't always real strict about being a few minutes late, but you just don't want to make a habit of it. It's something that you want to develop a good relationship. Even people you don't like. Listen, when I worked for the state, there were some people there I really didn't like, but I still tried to do my best I could to try to maintain good, just try to be a good professional relationship with them in whatever way I could. So the next thing here is accept your mistakes and learn from them. Now this one also I'm going to use for the state example, since when I was working for the state, I was required to design SQL queries and develop reports on pretty much a daily basis. And when I got in there, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't have a lot of database skills, so I had to really go down to the bottom level and really enhance myself and learn what I didn't understand about it. And I would start asking questions, and unfortunately one day I was doing an update to a table, and I inadvertently, for whatever reason, left out the key, which is a central link to an update. You leave out a key, you're basically going to update that entire table with whatever you were doing with that update statement. So I basically took a table, I think it was a person table or something, and I updated all the names with a one name. And unfortunately, I don't know why I selected, but I chose my name, and it showed up all over that table. Even though it was a test database and they still had another backup database, it still didn't look very good on me. So I began to understand stuff like that. If you don't know something and you're going to try something real serious like that, just go ahead and ask somebody. It doesn't really hurt just to say, you know, I just want to make sure that this is correct, that I don't mess up anything. So like I said, you're going to learn from your mistakes. The next thing is really important, is never resign from a job or a contracting position. And why do I say this? Because I did. Unfortunately, the state became too much pressure at the point where I thought that I was becoming a loose end for them, or whatever you would say, and I thought maybe I was the reason everything was failing, and I was the problem of the industry. So I had an opportunity, and I selected to resign from it. And you know what? This may vary by state, but in the state of Arizona, if you resign from a job position, you cannot collect unemployment. So here I was, out on my own, cast out from a job that I had tried so hard to get into, and I couldn't even collect any money from it. So don't do that. Okay, the next thing is, if you're permitted to, this will go back before the resign, I should have probably stuck that on the last part here, is if you're allowed to remote to your work computer from home, if they let you. Sometimes this is necessary to hit deadlines. I was able to use a remote device on my computer, which they helped me install. Well, basically they showed me a website, I went and I downloaded the software, and I could install a remote application that would allow me to connect to my work computer while I was sitting at home. And since I was a salary paid position, overtime doesn't really apply to people who are in who are getting a salary position, which is called non-exempt. When you're basically on a salary position, you can work a lot of overtime working at home, and you're not going to get paid for it. So basically working from home was no different than working at work. You know, some people say, well, you didn't get paid, you weren't at a job. Well, it's like, well, it's a salary position, so you're only going to be paid for the hours, 40 hours each week, basically. And people like manager positions can work like 50 to 60 hours a week, but they never make more than that 40 hours. So basically, you're never making more than the annual salary. If you're making $36,000, you're never going to make more than $36,000 or whatever. So those are just some of the tips I wanted to share with you. Like I said, just keep an open mind. I'd like to add some of my own here. Keep an open mind about things that can really occur, and just be open to new ideas. Be open also, maybe if it's really bad, depending on the economy and where you live, be open to relocation. I'm considering possibly in a year from now maybe moving to Austin, Texas. I've noticed the tech industry is exploding down there. I've been researching a lot, so just be open to relocation. You can stick that on your resume. I usually say open to relocation or travel of about 50%. And it also shows the employer that you're more flexible. So I hope this has been an inspiration to you and helps you get started if you want to be a computer programmer, a web developer, or whatever path you choose. Thank you for watching.